Hi all, it's PJ with Montevilla Sewing Centers. This short video is about thread storage. Store your thread in a cool, dry location, out of direct sunlight, and to keep the dust off of your thread, keep it away from air vents, and preferably covered, either in a drawer or in a container with a cover. Thread spools with built-in keepers. The keeper is a mechanism built into the thread spool to hold the tail of the thread. This is the old style Floriani spool, and it has a keeper, but it's underneath. This is the newer style spool, and there's a little ring. The ring never needs to come off of here, and if you actually pull the ring off, you've kind of broken the seal, and I've had difficulty keeping it back on. So just know that, don't pull that off. To keep the thread, really all you need to do is wind this around, and there's little notches in here that will catch the thread. So just grab the thread on the little notch and just gently pull, and it will stay there and it keeps it nice. All right, so that's the new style Floriani spool. The old style Floriani spool that has this little keeper, I just bring this around, and there's always a little nub right here that will catch the thread, and then I just hold my finger and then pull it into that. So that's how you use the old style. Other types, this is a Robeson Anton spool, and I think that the glide thread uses the same sort of function. This little ring does come down, and it will come down all the way like that. Couple things to know about this type of a keeper. These work really great. You do not have to open it all the way out both sides. You really only need to open the side that you need. So what I do is I just grab my thread and pull it around, and when I get to, there's a little notch here, I just pull that down and slide the thread in and then close it back up. If you get really rambunctious with these, you can break that ring off as well. So just be a little bit careful, but they work very, very well. Important to note that when you're using this, when this is on either your threads, if it's on a thread stand or even in this orientation coming off of your machine this way, make sure that this is closed, because if it's not, where these little notches are, your thread could get caught in there, and you don't want that to happen. All right, so just make sure that that's closed when you're actually sewing. The sulky spools for the 30 and 12 weight have a little pop-up guy as well. And usually I don't bother popping those up. Again, like the Floriani spool, just grab your thread, wind it around. Usually you can just gently pull and it will go into the slot. Again, if you get too rambunctious, you can in fact pop those all the way off. You could pop it as well, slide that in, and then just pop it closed. The Quilter Select, these do not pop up. They're stationary, and there's some little teeth in between here, and that's what catches your thread. But the same scenario, here's your thread. You're just going to wind it around, slide it into the little slot, past the little teeth, and it will hold your tail. There's two sets. There's one on each side. This one, I take it around a couple of times and make sure it catches those teeth more than once. And this is the Mettler, and the Mettler has a very similar system where there's little teeth here. So just wind around and then just pull it into the little slot. As a general rule, those are the basic types of keepers that are built into the spools. Thread spools without built-in keepers. What do you do if the thread that you have doesn't have a keeper built into the spool? There's a solution for that. This is the Wonder Fill. This happens to be the accent, and a lot of the Wonder Fill spools do not have a keeper built into them. Wonder Fill has what they called Wonder Guard, And I have a piece of it here that's still on the paper, so it's going to be a little bit easier to see. They come in a package, and I want to say there's 10 in the package. They're pretty inexpensive, and they work really great. And basically what this is, it's a piece of self-stick vinyl, really thin. It's a little bit stretchy. They're sized perfectly for the spools. So in this case, I would just take and wrap the tail, and I'm holding it with one hand, and take the Wonder Guard and just wrap it around. And then just press it to itself and it will stick. And then your tail won't go anywhere. The other thing that this comes in quite handy for is if you have a spool that's like this, this happens to be the rayon accent, and it's a little bit slippery. If you're using this from an upright spool pin, or actually even a horizontal, and you're having trouble with the thread falling off the spool, if you use your Wonder Guard and instead of wrapping it really, really tight, just kind of do it loosely, your thread still comes off the spool easily, but it won't be able to fall down. So if you were doing this vertical, it would be like this. So couple uses for this, the Wonder Guard. And then the old standby, which in essence, the Wonder Guard is basically the same as the Hugo's Amazing Tape. It's self-stick vinyl. And this is the Hugo's Amazing Tape. This was not available for a bit, but Superior Thread has picked it up, so it's available again. It comes in multiple sizes. I want to say 1 inch, 1/2 inch, and even 1/4 inch. But again, so here, basically, you would do the same thing. You would just cut it to length. And for any spool that doesn't have its own keeper, and you can use this again and again and again and again. A lot of times I will just go with the 1 inch size because it's more than big enough to hold your thread end. Sometimes the larger size can almost be too big. But you could do the same with this as well if you have threads that tend to be kind of slippery. So just pull your tail out, and then when you wrap this, you want to wrap it tight enough to hold in place, but not so tight that your thread's not going to come off. You don't want your thread to have to really yank out of there. Storing bobbins. Over the years, I've gone through many a bobbin storage scenario, and to be quite honest, I think this is probably my favorite. These are bobbin savers. They come in 2 different sizes. So these are all class 15 bobbins, but they do also come in a larger size. Most long arm machines use a M size bobbin, which are larger. So they do come in different sizes. This will hold both a class 15 and an L bobbin. These are L bobbins. The difference between the L's and the class 15s is the L's are shorter, but the diameter is the same. They come in different colors, and they come in rings, and they come in squares. This is how I kind of sort my bobbins. I use the different colored rings to identify different types of threads, or to just help keep them separate. So as a general rule, I will sort like this particular ring has all bobbin work thread in it. This has 12 weight thread. These just happen to be glow in the dark, but it's an easy way to keep things separated. And then I just stack them up. What I used to do, I have them in a drawer now because I have enough drawer space, but before I had enough drawer space, I just had these sitting like this. And what I would do is I would just take the top one and turn it over so that it would cover up so that dust wouldn't settle down. And for some reason, my cat would come up and he would just swat at him and he would fling him across the floor. It was his little game. And I can honestly say they survived the cat. My bobbins never went flinging out, which they had at times with other bobbin scenarios. But these are held in there really tight. You can kind of hear they kind of snap in. And I don't worry about the ends at all, the ends of my thread, because I just kind of wind it up. And then you can slide it in here. And if your tail is sticking out like this long, you can just kind of wind it around until the tail's to the inside. The same for the square ones. These actually fit much better in a drawer, and they will hold a lot of bobbins. The square bobbin savers will on a class 15, so you would get even more in a size L because they're thinner. But 66 bobbins on a standard class 15. This has 24. I've got 24 bobbins in the round one. And you can see, well, obviously the center is empty. But for the same amount of drawer space, this, you're going to be able to fit quite a lot more in here. So for bobbins, this is what I would recommend, the bobbin saver. Storing thread spools. This is the Floriani thread storage box. It is designed specifically for the Floriani spools. It's got 2 drawers, and these stack on top of each other. There's a little ridge right here that fits into the bottom here, so you can stack them up for as many as you need. To open, there's a little latch here. You just press that down and then pull out the tray. It does not come with the thread in it. This is my thread. But it does come with this little foam, I'm going to call this a keeper. And it just fits on top. So if you're transporting your thread, it's not going to get all jostled around because this little guy is going to hold that into place. It's really quite nice. And you can fit 15 spools per drawer, which is pretty good. So this is what they look like in the drawer. This is quite handy if you were going to go to class. This would work really well. You could just pull out the drawer that you were wanting to take and take just the drawer with you. And then I was curious if it would fit other spools. So in the second drawer down here, these are the glide spools, and they fit in there just fine. And then these are Robes and Anton, which are shorter, but they work as well. And there's plenty of room inside there. And these also fit in there. You can see it holds the tops here. And if these weren't here, it will settle down even onto the shorter height and help to keep those in place. So that's one solution. And a very nice one. These just slide in, and this little guy, I'm not sure, let me get this so you can see. When you press that down, can you see this actually depresses? So when this goes into the casing, it snaps into place, and it's not going to come out until you depress that. So it's really nice and secure. There's a handle here on top that recesses completely flat so when they stack, but it's all very sturdy. And again, just depress and open that up. So this is the Floriani thread storage box. This is the storage box from Glide. And if you're a Kimberbell fan, you may be familiar with this. So the Kimberbell thread sets come in the Glide box all as a package. And on these guys, the sides just flip down and then the lid comes off and you've got your spools in there. There's little individual dividers in between, so your thread's not going to go rolling around at all in there. All really nice and secure. The other thing that's nice about this set is that you can buy the lids and the bottoms separately, and then these can latch together and stack on top of each other. So you can, and the sides just snap in. And again, all nice and secure. So you could just have like a huge stack of these if you wanted. And again, the Kimberbell, these come as the thread set, but they're really handy. Those just unhook, and there you've got that. So again, this is a really nice solution for carrying thread to class if you're going to go to class, because you would only have to take the one layer that you actually need. And they just snap on and off. And again, you can order these guys separately, the lids and the bases, and then you can just snap them all together. So here's a quick little recap. Storing your thread spools, the Floriani thread drawers, or the glide case. Storing your bobbins, my favorite solution is the bobbin savers, either the rings or the squares. If your thread does not have a built-in keeper, here's my recommendations. Either the Wonderfill Wonder Guard or the Hugo's Amazing Tape. And in essence, these are pretty much the same thing. This just is a little bit wider and pre-cut. You can get the Hugo's Amazing Tape in multiple sizes and cut it to length yourself. That's it for thread storage. We'll see you next time. Thanks.